Hi there, it's Tracy Kiernan from stepbysteppainting.net, and this acrylic painting tutorial is going to show you how to paint a maple leaf on water. So I did this on a 9 by 12 canvas, of course with acrylics, and I'm going to go over the paint colors and brushes I used. So I only used 6 colors in this painting. These are the Liquitex Basics acrylic paints. So we have Cad Red Medium, Light Green Permanent, we have Mars Black, Titanium White, Phthalo Blue, and Cad Yellow Medium. And the brushes I used were this number 8 round brush. So this one doubles as kind of a liner brush because the point goes to a very, very fine tip. A number 4 round brush and a 12 bright brush. And this tutorial utilizes a traceable. So I actually have 2 traceable options you can choose from. So if you want more of a symmetrical, wider leaf, I have one of those for you. You can position it differently, or if you're using a different size canvas, you can choose kind of which leaf that you want for your design. So there's a few creative things that you can do with this. So I'm not going to be drawing the leaf. I will be utilizing the traceable because there's a lot of detail work that happens in this tutorial. So we're just going to trace it onto the canvas. So using graphite paper, select your traceable, print it out on a regular sheet of paper. If you're doing this on the 9 by 12 or even an 8 by 10, you're not going to have to tape anything together for this, which is nice. If you're doing this on a larger canvas, you might have to scale your traceable up and then print it and tape it together so that it's bigger. I think that you could even do this particular one, like a 1-sheet leaf, on an 11 by 14 canvas. You'll just have some extra blue in the background and you can kind of position your leaf differently to fit. So that is an option for you if you like working on the 11 by 14. But you want to make sure that you trace the shape and all of your little leaf veins. That's important for the detail work of this painting because it's an up-close picture of a leaf and we're going to get a lot of detail, a lot of color onto this leaf. So I'm going to get all of those lines traced and that design will show through on the white canvas. If you want to do a heart cut out on your leaf, like what I did, you'll just go ahead and in a central area, draw a heart on both sides of that middle line. So that middle line is the center of that heart. And then erase whatever's in the center of that heart, and you have yourself a little cutout of a heart on your maple leaf. So the first thing we're going to do is paint the leaf. So all the colors that are on the leaf, there are several colors on it. So we have the Cad Red Medium, Cad Yellow Medium. And I will say that you don't have to use these exact shades of red and yellow. Any red, any yellow will work for this. And this is the light green permanent, and same thing, any green. I chose the lighter green because it blended a little bit better with that yellow, but if you want to choose a darker green, or if you don't want green at all on your leaf, you don't have to do that. I wanted to do a leaf that still had a little bit of green on it. And titanium white. So I will be using both of these brushes, the number 4 round and the 12 bright brush. So the round is going to help us get into those really small areas, and the bright is going to help us kind of fill up those larger areas that the round is going to take forever to do if we just use the round. So we're going to first start with the red, and I'm going to slightly water this down to loosen it up because I want to paint like a really thin outline, the edge of the leaf. So the edge of the leaf is really important. So kind of thin it down a little bit, kind of twist your brush to load the brush, and I'm going to start on the furthest top point of it and just kind of loosely outline that. I'm not loosely outlining the entire leaf, I'm just doing the one little edge of the leaf at a time. So when you have that edge outline, you can go ahead and start filling it in. So I kind of did some blending right away. So I did red and then I grabbed that yellow. So yellow and red will make the orange. I kind of varied my strokes. So I did these like little short kind of expressive strokes to kind of fill it in. The thing with this leaf is we'll be doing a lot of blending, but we want to try not to over blend, because if you look at a fall leaf, it's not usually not solid 100% red or 100% yellow. This one in particular has a mix of yellow and red and even some green at the bottom. So we want to kind of mimic that. And by doing that, we're not going to let our colors blend all the way. So I'm doing wet on wet blending on the canvas, and I'm just kind of having fun with it and experimenting with the different, you want to do short strokes so that it kind of creates the texture and that it doesn't overblend. But your strokes don't all have to be going the same direction. You can even grab some white and utilize that white to kind of blend your color. And we're just filling this leaf in with that sort of technique of using the yellow, the red, and little bits of white. Try to keep your paint, especially when you get to the edges, you want to make sure that you're loosely outlining the edges. So it helps if you slightly water the paint down for the edges and kind of twist the brush to get that really, really fine line on the edges. And you're just filling your leaf. You can switch to your 12 bright if you need to start filling in the larger spaces, but I'm just going to concentrate mostly on the edges right now. This one, I grabbed that red. I'm just letting that red kind of blend, little short strokes. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with the bright brush here. So with the bright brush, we have bigger strokes and it kind of creates a different effect, but it also fills up a larger area faster. So if you like that, if you want to use the round brush for the entire leaf, you can. This one kind of fills it up faster. If you're going to be using the green on the bottom, you want to leave kind of a gap on the bottom of the leaf, not bring too much red down there yet. Take my yellow and do the edge. I'm basically just going to switch back and forth between these two brushes. We want to go around our heart, so you'll probably need to outline that so that we don't get our leaf color inside the heart shape. We'll be painting the heart a water, the color of the water, which will be blue in a later step. So I'm just letting these colors gently blend. You can take your time, kind of zen out. Don't think too hard about what color is supposed to be blending into what color. Just kind of let those paints do their thing. So around the heart, I'm letting my strokes kind of contour around it. I'm going to switch to the bright, fill up this area and this area, but still kind of leaving a gap at the bottom. So I want to rinse this off and start introducing my green. I'm going to show you how we can blend that green in. Again, that's optional if you don't want green on your leaf. So I'm going to grab my light green color, and at the very, very bottom of my leaf, I want the green. I'm going to utilize the white to kind of let that green have another color to mix with. And that green blends very nicely with our yellow color. We can use that color as well to help blend a different color in there. So I'm just doing the green at the bottom, grab a little bit of yellow, kind of blend that yellow in there, and then gently blend that up. So when our green kind of mingles with the oranges and reds, it's going to turn a little bit brown, which is not a bad thing for our leaf. We can have some brown on our leaf, but if you wanted to kind of avoid that brown color, you just want to make sure that your color blends into the yellow before it blends into the red. There's the little circle notch on the very bottom of the leaf. So I outlined that with the green, grabbed some more yellow, and just kind of doing the same thing like what I did at the top, little short strokes that gently blend together. And then grabbing that yellow, kind of dragging that yellow back up into this reddish area. And some red. So again, you're just filling up your leaf with a blend of those three colors and utilizing the white if needed, trying not to overblend. We are going to be painting the veins of the leaf in a later step, so don't worry about those. That's going to add more detail to your leaf. For now, we're just focusing on getting all that beautiful color down on our leaf. Also focus on the edges of the leaf, so filling it in, but also using your round brush to really outline the edges of your leaf, the inner edges. Rinsing my brush off. It's kind of a good practice with these colors because we have the green and the red, it's easy to have these colors get a little bit muddy. So rinsing them off to avoid that is a good idea. I'm just going to go back and start filling this part in at the top. And I am going to go silent for a little bit as I finish this step. So right here, I wanted to incorporate a little bit more green, but there is a lot of red down there. So to kind of get past that, I just kind of stippled that green. So up here, a little bit over the red, just taking my brush and kind of dotting that green in that red area helps to distribute it a little bit better than letting it blend to a brown color. So just doing little dots of green kind of gives it a speckled effect. And then I did a whole bunch of dotted green and a little bit of yellow in this area. Again, by doing little outlining, of course, but then like kind of in the middle area, just taking that brush and kind of dotting it to make it look like that green is kind of speckled over our red and orange area. The next thing I'm going to do is loosely outline my entire leaf with the color red. So we want this to be very, very, very thin. So we're taking that tip of the brush and just outlining the leaf. This helps get those edges of the leaf to be dark. So just going over the original drawing with just the red, outlining all of it, making sure the edges are nice and pointed. We will be doing our water in the next step, and we will be outlining the leaf with the darkest color of our water, which will be the blue, and then we'll be outlining again with like a black shadowy color. So this is just the outer dark edge of our leaf. even on the green area, I use the red. It helps to thin it down a little bit. That's how you get the very, very thin line. If you're having trouble with this step because you're not able to get those thin lines, you can actually skip the step because we'll still have some dark colors in the water that will help the leaf, the edges of the leaf kind of stand out. But it helps to twist the brush and to thin it down, and that gets that paint distributed right on the tip of the bristles. And I just also outlined the inner part of that heart. Next, we're going to add the color Phthalo Blue to our palette. And we are going to outline our leaf again, the outer part. I'm going to add titanium white to the palette as well. But let's use the number 4 round brush for this. And let's start with just the blue. I'm going to paint the inside of the heart first. So just taking the blue and painting all of that a solid color blue. Using the round brush. Make sure you cut in on the edge of that shape and just fill it in solid. Strokes kind of contour and go in the direction of the heart shape. And then we're going to start filling in our water. So we need this water to be dark closest to our leaf. And we're going to paint just the outer edge of our leaf first with the blue. So just taking my round brush and outlining in the curved direction. So see how that part kind of curves? Right here, same thing. Just taking that brush, thicker strokes. So I'm kind of pressing down harder on the bristles to get it to be thicker, but I don't want to accidentally paint over any of my leaf. So I'm going on the outer edge of that red outline. If you need to add a bit of water into your blue to help it spread thinner, you can, just don't add too much water to it. And you want to just keep doing this. So it's about a 1/2 inch thickness all around the leaf. There will be obviously more water in this, but for now we're just doing the outer part. And this, going around the edges, so all that negative space. You can bring it out further if you want. I accidentally grabbed a little bit of white in that blue that time. Was not done on purpose. We just want this to be solid blue for now. I'm going to speed this video up just slightly, but take your time. And I'm also going to go silent for a little bit as I finish this step. So just keep painting all the outer part of that leaf with a solid coat of this Phthalo Blue. Okay, next we want to load Mars Black onto our palette and utilizing the 4 rounds. So I didn't even rinse my brush off. If there's a little bit of blue on that, that is okay. So the closest part of our leaf, we're going to go over with black. But we don't have to fill this in 100% solid. We just want to make it look like that part of the water is a little bit more darker, more shadowy. So I'm just kind of loosely adding this black to the inner outer part of that blue that we painted. So the outer part of the leaf, the most inner part of the blue. So I'm not trying to cover all the blue. I'm just making that furthest edge part darker. If it's blending with the blue, that's fine. Actually is to our benefit if it's blending. If it's not blending, that's also fine. Just taking that. It doesn't have to be consistent, so some parts can look a little bit thinner, some can look a little bit darker or thicker. So just taking that, and I want to do this all the way around that negative space of the leaf. So again, I'm going to go silent as I finish this step. So I want to just keep adding that black very loosely. One thing I will say is if you want to, if you're adding this black and it looks like it's too dark compared to your blue, you can add a little bit of, you can thin it down. That'll thin that black down so that blue is, or so that black is not so bold and bright or bold and dark. But adding blue into it helps as well, helps with that transition of the dark, but it doesn't have to be a perfect blend of black to blue. It just needs to be kind of thin and loose, a little bit inconsistent, but definitely contouring around the leaf. You want to do the same thing on the inside of the heart as well. So I'd outline the inner part and just a few little strokes kind of in the middle. So in this next step, we're going to be using a bigger brush. I'll be using that 12 bright brush, and I'm using titanium white. So I'm going to mix our titanium white with our phthalo blue. So about equal parts white and blue together. You're going to create a lighter blue. And we're going to take that and start filling in the water. And you want your strokes, so these are thicker and it's going to be faster than that round brush. It's going to take up more space, so it's going to be a little bit faster. But you want your strokes to contour around that leaf shape, around those dark colors. And it's going to start creating lighter colors in the water. And because my strokes are going in that contouring direction of that leaf, so they're kind of curving around it, that's kind of creating the ripple effect of the water. So it makes it look like the water is kind of flowing around the leaf. So as we get to the outer parts, we still want our strokes to kind of curve in that direction of the leaf. So this is going to curve down in here and eventually meet up with this water. So, but we have a lot of space in the corner areas. So when we get to those areas, we don't have to kind of do curvy strokes. We can kind of just do expressive, abstract strokes. So up here, I'm doing like a combination of white and blue and letting those blend together, but I'm doing cross-hatched kind of expressive strokes, letting them gently blend so that I have lighter and darker variations in the water. It's not all the same shade of blue or tint of blue. That would be a tint because we're adding white into this. And just so this corner area right here, just angled expressive strokes. Add some more phthalo blue to my palette and fill this rest of the corner area with a little bit darker blue and then kind of blend that up into the lighter blue. and then fill up pretty much the rest of the space. So you can utilize your blue and white to create different variations of color in that water. I can also use a little bit of this black, so I'm going to blend some of this black kind of into that blue, so in that shadowy area, just a few more little strokes of black blending with the blue. And then I can add some more black kind of on the outer parts of it as well. In the corner areas, we can utilize that black to make some of the corner areas have darker shades of blue. So this corner down here, I'm going to make it a little bit darker, but still using those expressive angled, short angled strokes kind of blend gently together. Next, we're going to paint the veins on the leaf. So I recommend you find a small brush for this. I'm going to start with this little brush. This one wasn't in the description of the materials because I ended up switching to the number 8, which has a much finer point to it than this one. But you need a brush that has tiny bristles so that we can get these thin lines. And we want to go ahead and mix our red and green together. And that's going to make a reddish brown. So about equal parts. So mixing your cad red and your light green color, mix those two together. And we're going to just start painting in the leaf veins. So I can still kind of see my line drawing from the tracing earlier. It's still kind of showing through the paint. If it's not showing through for you, you can retrace it. If you feel more comfortable doing that, you'll just need to make sure your painting's dry before retracing it. Or you can just look at your picture as a guideline to help you with these. But I just basically started with my middle line, and so that one goes right down the middle of the leaf from that little circle notch all the way to the top tip of it. And then you want your main lines to be a little bit thicker, and then your other lines to be a little bit thinner if you can. They're all relatively thin lines though. I'm going to go ahead and switch to that 8 that I was talking about. So this one, I have more control over these thin lines because the tip of the bristles are very thin and it's an easier to control brush. So whatever you feel comfortable with, you can use the tiny brush if that one's more comfortable, or if you have a liner brush with the longer bristles, you get more of a stroke that lasts longer when your bristles are longer. Just going over these. It also helps to water the paint down just slightly. That gets that color to flow better. So there's those lines. So they should have enough contrast against your leaf color. If your leaf is darker and your lines are not showing up, you can try to mix a darker color. You can mix a little bit of black into your leaf vein line color that you have on your palette, or you can go the opposite way. You can do a lighter color so that it stands out. You can mix white with maybe yellow to do bright yellow vein lines, or mix white with red to do a lighter red so that it has contrast. So I'm just going over all of these lines. So each kind of leaf, a prong area has a main middle line, and then each main middle line has little diagonal pieces that go out from that middle line, and then some of them are going to reach that heart area. The heart was painted out, but we still have lines that might overlap that heart cut out. And you can vary your color too if you want to add a little bit more red in some areas of the vein lines or a little bit more green to make it darker, or even utilize your black to make it much darker in some areas. You can do that. Then I'm going to do my leaf stem. So this one comes out just at that opening notch circle piece, kind of to the side of it. Curves, and the base of it is a little bit thicker. Curves to like a thinner line again. So I use that same kind of brownish color, that red and green mixed together. I can take the black and make it a little bit darker. So I did black on one side, just using that bristle, the tip of the bristles to create that thin line. Take that black, kind of loosely outline the edge of that leaf. Then without rinsing the brush, grab a teeny tiny bit of white right there in the tip and add just a pop of white right along the edge. Gives it a little bit of a highlight. Next, we're going to start painting all these ripples in. So I'm going to be using the number 8 round brush for this. The round brush worked for this step because it's a brush that creates flowy strokes and our ripples are flowy lines. So I am going to go ahead and mix Phthalo Blue and Titanium White together. So I'm utilizing the blue that's left on my palette, about equal parts white and blue together. I accidentally grabbed black in there. That's why I rinsed and remixed. So blue and white mixed together. And you want to start creating these flowy lines that contour around the leaf. So I did one flowy line, and then we can take this and do another flowy line very close to the edge of the leaf. This one goes in around those edges, and this one can go over here. So as you're doing these lines, you want to try to vary. This is good round brush practice. So thick and thin, so that the line is thin in some areas based on how I'm holding the brush. So right there, that line was created thinly because I was using just the tip of the bristles. So you can create thin lines. But then if you press harder with the brush, you create the thicker lines. So those ones, I did another set of ripples that were kind of more inwards, closer to the edge of the leaf. So you want to create a combination of thick and thin. Right there, that one was thick. I was pressing harder. Can have this. I'm letting that paint run out and run dry for a reason, so that I have some dry brush ripple strokes. You're just creating flowy strokes around the leaf, and then when we get to the outer parts, water just kind of spreads out and isn't much of a leaf shape at all. I'm going to create little dots with the white and using the tip of the brush. Little dotted reflective pieces, maybe they're bubbles or something shining on the water. Also helps to create the sort of whimsical effect. I'm also going to do a few sparkles in the water too. I'll show you how to do that. Little dot on the tip of that leaf. Little clusters of dots. Create some more interest in the water. So we can do like a little star sort of thing. So do a dot and then do the little lines going vertical, horizontal, and diagonal. We can do a few sparkles here and there. The sun sort of making the water look like it's sparkling. I'll do another one over here. So same thing, little dot, vertical line, horizontal line. You're just really using that very thin tip of that brush and you're letting go quickly to let that little point of the star kind of fade away and run dry. I'll do one more little sparkle over here on the right. In this next step, I'm going to go back in with some thinned down Mars Black paint. So I'm taking this 8 round, the Mars Black, and thinning it down to almost a watercolor consistency. I'm just adding some more kind of darker, reflective, whatever is reflecting in the water or shadowy thing kind of in the corners, but kind of really loosely adding that, holding my brush kind of at an angle, kind of flat. Create some darker smudges in the corner, gives it some more interest. And then adding a few more ripples, but with just the white. So I'm going back over some of my ripples, not all of them, just some of them, with a layer of bright white. This really brightens those ripples up, almost exaggerates them. So if you don't like the exaggerated look of the ripple, you don't have to do another layer of white. You can leave it kind of simpler, not as bright. And just a few little random curved lines over here on the right. Didn't want to overdo the white ripples, but I did want to do one more thing so our stem doesn't have any ripples. So I wanted to go back. It doesn't even have shadows. So I did the watered down black and then added that kind of darker color around the stem first with the watered down black, very, very loosely. And then added the white just on the tip of the brush, add a very, very thin ripple to the end of that stem. It kind of ripples around and then just sort of disappears up the stem. I'll have this one kind of join these ripples over here. But again, it's so tempting to go back and keep adding more and more ripples, and you end up kind of overdoing it, making it too busy. Do a few more very loose pieces. So our painting could actually go multiple ways. You can kind of turn it to see which way you like the best. I like this way the best, with it, the stem going in the upper left. But that is it. This is the conclusion of how to paint a fall leaf floating in the water. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and thanks for painting with me.